That took ages.
Why?
There must surely be a better way to achieve that.
I wasn't practicing. People want to do cool stuff, but they don't want to spend money doing it. I completely sympathise. I don't want to spend any money. I need that money to be alive. I got thinking about zero budget guitar production. And I mean zero budget. Is it possible to record a good piece of guitar-based music without spending any money? Let's say you own a guitar and a practice amp. Maybe it's your first ever guitar. Maybe it's your first ever practice amp, a jack cable, and no other music equipment. What could you do if you had zero budget? This video is very much about me exploring the idea of zero budget guitar production. This isn't going to be like a straightforward tutorial. This is me going on an adventure and sharing stuff as I work it out. So you're going to see me make a lot of mistakes. You're going to see me do stuff I don't need to do and then realize that later. You know, it's going to be a lot of fun. If you're looking for something that resembles a tutorial, I've got an article link in the description. That article is basically a step-by-step, hey, here's what you do. So let's try and go about this with a degree of structure. Now, I'm perfectly happy for these steps to change as we go along and we discover more about this process, but for the moment, let's say there's 4 steps. Step number 1, record guitar. Easy. Step number 2, record everything else. I don't know what that is yet, but we'll find out. Step number 3, mix. Combine guitar and everything else in a way that sounds, you know, fine. And step number 4, profit. And we want to do all of these things without spending any money. Step number 1 is record guitar. So what equipment are we going to need to do that? This is a Cruiser by Crafter Guitar. This is the kind of guitar that many of us would have started on. We'd probably get this and an amp from a second-hand shop for like 100 quid, less than 100 quid, maybe £60. I don't know. This is what a lot of us would have started on. So I'll bet, even if you're a brand new guitarist, you've got something like this around and probably got some kind of amp like this. 15 watts of something. 15 watt custom. Custom with a K. The real way to spell custom, huh? Again, old, second-hand. In terms of microphones, it's going to get dicey because I'm going to use the built-in microphone on my phone. I'm also going to need a jack cable. I'm sure I've got a jack cable somewhere. And finally, I have a keyboard that I found in a bin. Can't get much more affordable than a bin keyboard. It's super janky, but it does have a drum kit in it, so I'm going to use that with my headphones. That's just going to be a metronome. That's just going to keep me in time. That's all it's doing. Okay, so like all great creative endeavors, the first step is to build a pillow fort. Yeah? Let's go. When you're working with limited resources, it's really important that you maximize every opportunity you have. This is our janky, cost-effective way of getting a isolation booth. As much as possible, we just want to be working with the sound of the amplifier. God damn it. That took ages. Something I hadn't considered is how much volume can my phone take? I guess we'll find out. I don't know what tempo this is. This just says 2. This just says that the tempo is 2. I worked in music education for something like 8 years. No budget, no time, no resources to do anything, but there were really high expectations of what the students should be able to do. So we had to do some very janky audio tech stuff. You know, we had to make things work ways that they weren't supposed to work. I guess this is a topic that is important to me. So I'm really excited to do some horribly janky stuff and let y'all enjoy the benefits. Y'all. No, I don't think I've said y'all before. Anyway, I also want to try something that I've seen people do online that I kind of hate, but I'm going to see if there's something in it. I'm going to try just miking up the strings. Microphones and pickups are essentially both just magnets, right? So there's no reason this shouldn't work. I've seen like metalheads recording just with a microphone acoustically their electric guitar.
in order to get more twang and percussion out of their amp sounds, and I've always thought there must surely be a better way to achieve that, but I don't know. I don't have high hopes for this, but I'm also entirely happy to try and be wrong. I won't be happy about being wrong. I'll be really annoyed.
I can say with absolute certainty that if you ever do have any discernible budget for recording guitar, you should buy new strings. That's going to make your life a lot easier. I really struggled with this guitar because I don't think the strings on it have ever been changed. I actually ended up down tuning a whole step to D standard, in order to, you know, comfortably play this guitar. If you're lucky enough to have money, buy strings. So that took a little bit of time, but we have recorded guitar. Step 1 complete. I want this video to mostly be about guitar mixing. One of the things about, well, mixing any instrument actually, is making sure that it fits within the context of whatever the ensemble is, yeah? So I'll be able to come up with some rules for things that I think will be helpful in a general sense with the audio I've recorded, but I'm not going to know if they're worth doing until I put it in the context of a band. So I need to think of a way to come up with a band for free. I've installed MuseScore, which is free, and I'm going to see if I can render some passable sounds. And I'm not going to try and spend too long making those sound great. Maybe just good enough. I don't know. I'm actually fairly impressed with the quality of the sounds inside of MuseScore. I did cheat a little bit. I used Cubase to work out the tempo of what I'd recorded because, as you may recall,
The tempo is 2.
so once I worked out the tempo, I could create a bass part and a drum part inside of MuseScore, and I rendered out the bass, the cymbals, and the skins of the drum kit as separate tracks. That way I have some degree of control over the mix without getting completely lost and distracted by details. I've just discovered something I really hate about living in the future. My phone, when I do an audio recording, gives me an M4A format. Why? Why not just WAV? Why not MP3? Why not Indeed or Vorbis? I haven't actually settled on a DAW to use for this project yet. That's the next job I have. But I know for sure that M4A isn't supported in Audacity or Cubase. So that's a complication. I only had to do a little bit of Googling to find Cloud Convert. What's cool about Cloud Convert is you just tell it what format you have and what format you want the file to be, and it sort of just does it. It'll take a little bit of time if you're having to convert a 3-minute piece of audio, but it's not so bad and it seems to work quite well. And now we can finally see what we're dealing with inside of Audacity. Let's bring in the distorted amp recording. Ooh, okay. Okay. It's quite peaky. We were hovering around 0 decibels there, very much in the red. We weren't exactly close to the amplifier, the microphone, and the amplifier wasn't exactly loud, so it's a little worrying. I guess it's compressed the audio or boosted it or limited it or something. It does sound kind of quite squished. I guess the recording app on my phone is optimized for voice, which, I mean, being that it's a phone, I guess makes sense. But it does kind of mean maybe I can't use my phone. I'm not here pretending that using the internal mic on my phone was a good idea. I'm just trying to, find ways to do this kind of thing without having to spend money. And we all have phones, right? Because we live in the future. So it's disappointing that it's done this. Now, I don't necessarily know what your phone is going to do. You might have much better results if you were to try this out with your device. Audacity is a great free audio editor. It's not a sequencer, which is fine. It's not supposed to be. So I still have the same problem of needing to find a free DAW or sequencer. My new problem is that I can't record into my phone using the sound recorder or the video camera, because they both give me this same super compressed audio. Now, if I'm doing clean sounds, that's less of an issue, but if I want to add any kind of distortion, it's kind of... I tried using distortion on that acoustic recording. Terrible idea. I mean, it might work for like an effect if it's buried under a lot of stuff, but like as a standalone rhythm guitar, really bad. Oh, I wonder if we should try BandLab. BandLab's pretty good. It relies on your internet connection, and it is a little bit crashy from time to time, especially if you have more than like 2 or 3 tracks, in my experience. But generally, for a free piece of software, it's really good. I've remembered that BandLab exists, having already created my bass and drum parts and exported the audio from MuseScore. That actually works out for the best because I happen to prefer the sounds in MuseScore. The drums, for example, in MuseScore sound a bit more like an acoustic kit being played by a person. There are plenty of free DAW programs out there. The reason I'm going with BandLab is because I've used it before, so I'm kind of aware of its foibles. And also I know that it has this ability to record on a mobile device and then immediately be accessible on desktop. So that's, you know, I'm not sponsored by BandLab, but if they want to reach out, I don't know what they would gain by doing that. But they could. Being able to record with my phone directly into a browser-based DAW, it means I can bypass the whole issue around file formats that I had when recording with my phone. I don't have to use that web-based converter. I can just record from my phone into BandLab. Now the question is, if I do that, is it still going to be all weird and compressed like it was recording straight into my voice recorder? I've gone back to my recording environment. I've kept everything pretty much the same distance between my amp to my phone, the same volume on the amp. Let's see if we have these same issues with compression when recording directly into BandLab. I was actually really happy to go back and re-record because first time around I don't think the intonation was particularly good on this guitar. That is a risk with affordable guitars, with the beginner stuff, especially a second-hand beginner guitar like this. So if you are working with something on the more affordable end of the spectrum, definitely invest some time on learning about intonation. Or if you've got a mate that can do it for free, even better. Even better. I've re-recorded guitars now into BandLab directly. Let's have a little look at the project file. I'll talk about the different instruments that are going on, and then we'll have a look at guitar EQ, which I think is going to be quite important to a lot of you. So we've got bass, drum cymbals, and drum skins. These are pretty much straight out of MuseScore. I've added a little bit of compression and EQ to the bass, just to boost up that low end, give it a bit more oomph, a bit more power. We've got 2 distorted guitars, this green one on the left, this orange one on the right. The green one is slightly louder than the orange one. We'll talk about those in detail. We've got the acoustic guitar here, which is purple, panned slightly to the right. That's got quite a lot of, well, not quite, it's got some effect on it. It's got a bit of EQ, it's got a bit of chorus and a filtery echo. That guitar is just playing like individual chords one at a time. I've called it acoustic because that's the guitar that I recorded just the strings. So I'm not here trying to pretend that's an acoustic guitar, although it literally is an acoustic guitar. I recorded an electric guitar acoustically, so if you want to have an argument about semantics, I'm here for that. We also have the funk guitar. This, I think, was also just the clean strings of the guitar. There's a few more effects going on here. We've got a bit more EQ. We've got a little bit of compression going on, a phaser, more EQ, and then a little bit of reverb at the top there as well. So the funk guitar just sort of happens in the middle here. It's this yellow block. It's quite low in the mix. And then we've got this little effects pad at the bottom. I just wanted something to give a bit of like, I think it's got like a tremolo effect on it. Yeah, it's got a tremolo. I just wanted something with a bit of stereo movement sort of going on top. I think this is quite low in the mix. That's just sort of doing that over the top. Guitars, the distorted guitars. What's going on here? We've got a little bit of volume automation going on the green guitar, the left-hand one. That is just so when we come to the sort of, I'm calling it a verse. I think the little melody. That is just kind of lower in the mix, because otherwise it was quite intrusive. We can definitely hear, I think, that this is like a little crappy practice amp, but we've changed the EQ quite significantly to compensate for that. The main thing is we've just added quite a lot of body to the sound. So let me play this without the EQ. I've got two kinds of EQ going on here. Here is just the raw left-hand guitar. Quite crispy in a sort of trebly, unpleasant kind of way. The first EQ here, we're getting rid of anything below 90 hertz. That's sort of quite common for me. If I'm, recording anything, I'm probably gonna significantly reduce or completely cut out anything below the fundamental frequency. I don't want any rumble in that low end. I want space for bass guitar, I want space for kick drum. So everything below 90 hertz is gone. We've also got like a bit of high-end cutoff as well. When I had a look at the audio file in Audacity, I think it looked like there was just a little bit of crackle or something, or a little bit of unpleasantness at the top. We're just taking that off here. And then most crucially, we're removing about 5 decibels at 2000 hertz. This is what it sounds like without that. And then with, it just gets rid of that tinniness. Makes it a lot warmer. I much prefer that. And then this second batch of EQ, we're not doing high pass, we're not doing low pass. We're just boosting by 15 decibels, 160 hertz. Here it is without. And with. It's just about that oomph, that low end, satisfying oomph that you can feel more than hear. So that's the left hand guitar. In the right hand guitar, we're only really doing that first corrective EQ. So getting rid of anything below 100 hertz, we're reducing 2000 hertz by 5-6 decibels, and we're cutting out above 4600 hertz. We're essentially copying that first EQ. We're not doing the second EQ because this guitar is lower in the mix. It's more about doubling that first one, so I wasn't so worried about having that same oomph. And then the two guitars together. The other thing is that I've obviously beefed the guitar part a bit because I wasn't practicing. I was more worried about sitting here and getting the settings right and recording it properly than I was about playing the guitar properly. Priorities. I had a whole sequence in this video initially about room tone and how when I did the whole pillow fort recording booth thing, I recorded some room tone so I could then pull it into Audacity, look at what frequencies we were working with and reduce those in the final mix. The pillow fort did a really good job. There was basically no background noise. I had to boost it like 30 decibels in order to see like a little bassy rumble. Really not even worth considering, which is why I took it out of this video for the sake of time. If you are recording in an environment where there is a bit of background noise like electrical hum or traffic or something, record a few seconds of room tone, just your phone in the environment you're recording in, and then you can always pull that into Audacity and have a look with Voxengo Span, which is a free EQ, and just see what frequencies you're working with, what excess background frequencies there are, and then maybe removing those in the final mix if you find that background noise is a problem. If you don't find that background noise is a problem, don't. This video took months. I think I'm just so used to recording straight into my DAW, just plugging my guitar's jack lead straight into like my audio interface, and that's it. And I'm using digital amps. I use guitar rig by Native Instruments. I really like that. I'm so used to the sounds. I know how the software works. And if I do need to record an amplifier or an acoustic instrument, I have the microphones to do that. And again, my audio interface can take XLR, phantom power, everything I need. So starting again from scratch really did remind me of trying to make music like 20 years ago. I couldn't just decide, oh, I want to record something, Google it, and then see what would work. What's the point I'm trying to make here? I'm trying to make you guys feel bad because I had it hard when I was a kid. I don't know, man. It was nice to sort of sit in that headspace of, oh gosh, how do I do this, and just have to experiment for ages. But I'm probably not going to write any music for the rest of this week. I'm just tired. I'm gonna like condense my thoughts into like a salient helpful list in 1 second. I do hope that this process has been interesting or helpful to watch. I do feel for you if you're really desperate to make music but you don't know how to even get started. So I do hope there's a little handful of people out there that were like me 20 years ago, really eager to get on and make stuff, and now maybe you can make something slightly better sounding. That's my hope anyway. That was sort of the goal from the get-go, so yeah, fingers crossed there. If you want to check out this project file on BandLab, you can do that. That's one of the cool things about BandLab, is that it's got this whole social side sort of built in, so you can go to bandlab.com. I'll put a link, I don't know, wherever you might expect to find links, if you want to have a look at the project and kind of take it apart, go nuts. Alright, let's get some conclusions. This is the actual tutorial bit of the video, I guess. Number 1, compare your guitar sound to other guitar sounds and think about the tone, think about the timbre of the instrument, and try to work out how they're different. If you can work out how they're different, you can maybe use EQ to make your one sound better, or at least sound more like the one that you're referencing. I want you to trust your ears, and I want you to experiment. Number 2, never underestimate the value of a well set up guitar. Going through this whole process and recording guitar only to realise I was kind of out of tune was a real pain in the ass. Luckily I had to re-record anyway, so you know, no harm done. Number 3, if you have background noise in your tracks, record some room tone on your phone or whatever you're using, pull that into Audacity, and you can use Voxengo Span, which is a free visual EQ. You can look at the frequencies, you can see what's causing problems, and you can EQ that out inside of BandLab or whatever free DAW you're using. Number 4, don't be afraid to experiment with different applications. In this video, I preferred the sound of the bass and drums in MuseScore, so I used those rather than using the bass and drums built into BandLab. I don't think any of the free DAWs have like a good built-in visual EQ, so you might need to use Audacity with Voxengo Span to see what's going on. Number 5, consider embracing lo-fi. This isn't something we spoke about in this video because it's not what this video is about. Lo-fi genres are great. Lo-fi hip-hop took off recently because it's so accessible. The barrier for entry is so low, and if something sounds weird and janky, that's just the vibe, right? So you can get away with it. Lo-fi subgenres of rock and punk have always had an audience, so why not embrace the inherent jankiness of lo-fi recording? I really believe that if a song is really good, the way it's recorded just doesn't matter. Number 6, I will get bored of saying this one day, but the most important piece of advice I can give, and this is true of basically everything I talk about, is practice. It takes time to learn skills, and the equipment that you're using doesn't really factor into that. If you can get a good sound without spending any money, when you are able to upgrade, you are going to be unstoppable. That's my final sort of big point, is to just practice. You thought it was going to be easy, didn't you? You started this video like, oh sweet, I'm going to get like top 10 tips on how to do this thing without spending any money. And then what I'm saying is, no, it'll take time. It'll take a lot of time, which it will. Yep. Bye then. Yes, sorry, I forgot the to-do list. How do you make money with music again?